This is Yep and That Too, hosted by Kerrie Roberts and Aaron Rice, a podcast for creatives discussing the craft and artistry of redefining success as we learn to maneuver through life with joy, contentment, and confidence.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for listening. Welcome to Yep and That Too. Aaron Rice here with my lovely, sparkly, and shiny friend, Kerrie Roberts. Yes. We have another amazing guest who we will intro in a minute. But thank you guys for listening. From the top, we want to just say thank you. We cannot believe the people that are listening, that are texting, that are messaging. So thank you to everyone. It's more than just our family, Kerrie.
It is. And I've enjoyed the conversations that it is inspiring people to have as well. So that's been very encouraging.
So we have another very special guest. This one, we have quite a few. I think we said in episode 1, if you know us, you will be asked to be on this podcast.
Yes.
So far, we're rolling with it.
We're keeping our word.
But this is really special. We've had a lot of people that are very special to each of us on. But tonight we have Brittany Hargest, Brittany Prins.
Thank you. Yeah.
Brittany Prins, but known as Brittany Hargest from the band Jump 5.
Yes. Hello.
Thanks for being here.
I like how you said band, even though technically none of us played instruments.
You played, just not in front of people.
Just not for people.
Right. Group from the group Jump 5.
Yes.
Brittany and I have been friends for a long, long time. I
think half my life. Yeah.
Yes. Well, and I can't wait to tell some of the dynamics of our friendships and our relationships. We know each other's families, and I mean siblings and parents and children. It's really fun. But Brittany is insanely talented, insanely creative. Also a very, very good friend. This is also public, so this is when I'm extra nice to her.
Right. He's only ever nice to me in public. It's actually not even true.
Never nice to you.
No.
But Brittany, we start with something. I'm going to get this. I almost said get this out of the way.
Get this out of the way. Let's do it.
I really did. I want to say that. But I didn't mean it that way. But I know the tangents this conversation is going to take. So I want to do this at the top.
Okay.
Is that a more appropriate way to say
Let's
this?
Hear it.
Yes. We're going to jump into Kerrie's Kitchen Creations. This is the part of the podcast where I talk about things that I find to be normal and necessary, and Aaron finds them to be somewhat foreign and strange.
And extra.
Okay, so this is something very simple that I think everyone should be doing. I talk a lot about gardening. I know that's like a big investment of time and can be overwhelming, but everyone can be sprouting. Sprouting is easy. Sprouting is accessible. Sprouting can be cheap. I have to recommend, and this isn't, any sort of sponsored anything, Sprout Man seeds. These guys will definitely germinate for you, almost 100% germination on those. And the salad mix is my favorite, but you can have a bean mix, anything. You can sprout anything, basically. Any type of seed will sprout. And you can do it cheaply. You can do it in a jar. You're just going to soak the seeds, and then every day you rinse the seeds, and that's it. And they grow. You go into a frou-frou restaurant and they're like, ooh, we have microgreens for you. Whatever. That's just an older sprout that's got like a little bit of leaves. You can do this yourself. You can have fresh greens in your house all year round. So sprout, and you can do it cheaply in a jar with like a cheesecloth over it when you're soaking it and rinsing it. I once again would have to recommend Sprout Man. It sounds like an endorsement. It's not, but these bags are incredible. You never get any mold. You just put the seeds in there, soak it overnight, and then in this bag you're rinsing it, and then the sprouts, it grows right in here, and you just dump it out and put it in your fridge, and then you have fresh greens, sprouts. Do it. Eat it. It's good for you. And even like whenever you're doing broccoli sprouts, like sprouts themselves have far more high nutritional value than eating broccoli. So, I mean, there's just so many benefits of why you want to do that besides the fact of just having growing food. at your fingertips.
What I love right now is Brittany knows me so well. She's like, Aaron's never doing this.
Nope, he will never try this.
And Sarah's over there going,
That's
"I
why
wanna
he
do
has
this."
Sarah.
Exactly.
I got a phone call today. From somebody who is just starting listening, who said, "I cannot believe you're a friend with somebody. You have a friend who mills their own flour."
Right?
What do you guys talk about?
That's hilarious. Yeah, very impressed. I'm learning something every time I listen. So
Yeah, anyone can do sprouts. Anyone. Even you, Aaron.
Even Aaron can do sprouts.
That's a t-shirt for you.
Uh-huh.
Yes. So yeah, excellent. Kerrie's Kitchen Creations.
Excellent content.
So Brittany,
How did you guys meet? I need to know. Because
She
she's
won't-
known you half of her life. So
she won't remember.
I
She
I
don't
won't
need to know
remember.
the story.
No. Okay, so I'm going to set the table like this. There are bands and artists that are super transformative and memorable and have rabid fan bases that you work with that you don't realize at the time.
Mm.
And Jump 5 is that. To this day, I get more comments about me working with Jump 5 than literally anybody. I mean, Toby, Mandisa, mainstream acts. No, I'm serious.
I love it.
Brittany, you know this. I'll tell you this.
I think it's because of the age, like the age that our listeners were. They grew up with us, and so now when they hear that, I mean, it was like a thing for them growing up, right?
I think you're right,
Yeah.
but it doesn't change the fact that people still to this day are like, wait, Jump 5? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I met Brittany. I met her at the Ryman Auditorium.
Oh, wait, we met there? Oh my God.
We met.
I don't remember meeting you. That was the very, very first time we ever performed as
Because you were
Jump
like,
5.
you were like 8.
And it was like the Sparrow Records, like the 25th anniversary.
Yes.
So it was like Newsboys, Zoe Girl, gosh, there was like 20 acts, and then it was us. First time ever performing as Jump 5 with all these insane acts at the Ryman. Like
So much pressure.
Granted, I didn't know anything about it. Like I didn't
Good
know
for
what
you.
pressure was because I was a kid, but that was like the very first time we were ever on stage, and we were dressed. How do I say this politely?
You don't
Like
have to be polite.
idiots.
So that's when we met. And then later on, 2-3 records later, I helped with some remixes. And then later on, I was writing for them, never got a cut until the last couple of records. And then, so it was later in the Jump 5 career where Brittany and I actually became really good friends.
Right.
But what's amazing, and we'll get to all of this, but what's amazing is Brittany's a little bit younger than I am. And I'm also really good friends with her parents. Yeah. Brittany's family is like mine. They're a very close family. Yeah. So I'm equally good friends with her parents as I am her.
Because you were working with her when she was so young.
I was working with her when she was young. Exactly. And they're, 10 years older than me. She's 10 years younger. It's that kind of thing.
Right in the middle. It's perfect.
And it's great. She was at our wedding. I was at her wedding. She helped throw Sarah a baby shower. We are in each other's lives outside of the creative aspect, actually in each other's lives, which is we keep going back to when you create with somebody, you become attached. You really do. And then after Jump 5, Brittany and I wrote and did a record together, a solo record for her that is in my top 5 favorite things I've ever been a part of. And we actually became, we got real in that record. We became really attached. So Brittany, tell us about Jump 5.
Oh goodness. Okay. Well, we started when I was 9. And then just, I mean, I was a kid, so I was doing an audition, but I've grown up singing and dancing my whole life. So it was just another audition that I went on. And it was supposed to be for like a studio session work for kids to make like a Bible school, like almost like a VBS kind of thing. And I was a studio singer. So I went on an audition, and it just so happened that they wanted dancers as well, because we all could dance, and it kind of turned into a pop group. And it was honestly, we had no idea what we were signing up for when we did it. We didn't realize it was going to be what it was. And Disney got a hold of us at like 2001, 2002. And they were really happy with us because we were a positive, wholesome, and visual. So not only could we, be safe for parents to listen to, or parents for their kids to listen to, we were also very visual because we were dancers and we could tumble. So they started putting us on all of these different crazy soundtracks and TV shows and music videos, and it just turned into a snowball effect. And we did it for 10 years, and it was incredible. Literally, I still to this day think about the crazy things that we did that at the time I didn't realize how crazy they were. Like it was just another day for us. So
what soundtracks were you on? I ask as if I don't know.
Right. We were on the very first one was the Beauty and the Beast soundtrack. So when they were reopening the DVD for the vault in 2002, they asked us to re-record the main title track or whatever. And so we did that. And that was the first like, what's happening? And they started playing it on Disney Channel, and then we started really blowing up. And I remember thinking, like, that I am only, I was 14 at that time. It was wild to me. Yeah. And then we were on, the most popular one is the Lilo and Stitch one. And that one was 2006. And we did a Hawaiian roller coaster ride. And that's the one that still gets played at dance competitions, at the mall. Like you'll still hear that one all the time, which cracks me up. I still get royalties on that one for a song I didn't even write. Like just because it gets played on Disney Channel still to this day. So we did a ton of different, we did Brother Bear,
Lizzie McGuire.
Lizzie McGuire. We actually got to go to the movie premiere for that one. That was pretty cool.
And then you got to sing at somebody's house.
Yes, we got to go to the White House when I was 13. We sang for President Bush, or W. Bush. And it was that we did not get nervous for performances because again, we were on stage for our entire lives. We never got nervous because it was just second nature to us. But at the White House, we were terrified. I mean, if like there's still on YouTube, you can find the video of us performing. And if you look closely enough, you'll see our knees are literally like shaking together, just terrified. And these poor children on stage. But George W. Bush was like 10 feet in front of us. And he could tell that we were terrified. And he kept giving us like, "You're doing great," like thumbs up while we were performing. And it was really sweet. It was super cool. But yeah, that was just crazy, silly things that would never in a million years would have ever happened to a normal 14-year-old, but it happened to us. And it was just the coolest. Very cool.
So you're doing Jump 5, you go to do an audition. You grew up singing and dancing. The group gets put together and is instantly a part of a machine. It's part of a major label. It's a major label. It's Disney. It's private jets. It's the whole thing, right? Then, so when you go to producers who were not necessarily familiar with you, I'm jumping ahead a little bit to later in the career when we started working together. I don't know that I would have thought, oh, here's Jump 5, they're creative, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And we've talked about this, so I'm not saying anything that I'm going to get in trouble for.
No.
I thought, oh, here's Jump 5, a bunch of kids who can dance and do tricks on stage.
Right.
And they're part of the machine. Here's the product, right?
Because that's what it was.
Right. But the very first time we sit down to write a song together, I was like, oh, hold up. You can sing. Like, oh, you can sing. And then like Brandon, your brother's playing piano and you guys are coming up with these lyrics and these melodies. I'm like, wait, time out. This is not what I thought I was signing up for.
Yeah.
How did you navigate that even at a young age? Like, no, I am creative. Like, love me for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How did that work for you? Or did it even cross your mind then?
It didn't register for us because, again, we started so young. So you're right. It was totally a machine thing for us. Like we were thrown in literally into a major label. We were signed our first like record deal. They wanted 7 albums right off the bat. All of us were like, okay, what does that mean? Sure, whatever. We have no clue what we're talking about. Like I was 9. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, my brother and I played piano. We played instruments. We were always dancing. We were always musically talented, but we never thought, let's put ourselves out there in Jump 5 to maybe write a song or maybe have that creative aspect, because that's not what we were. We were a dancing, singing pop group. So I never felt like we had not the desire, but we never felt like we really cared to do it because we were having so much fun anyway. And we were, like, again, the things that we were doing were insane. We were performing for hundreds of thousands of people on stage and loving it. We never felt like we were missing that aspect of creativity because we were still getting to perform. I guess later on, probably towards the last year or two, we were starting to have that desire of, okay, we've done this for 8-9 years now. I think it's time for us to maybe try something different. Let's try the writing thing. But I never felt like we were missing out on it. I never felt like we had to go to a producer or go to one of the, executive producers or just say our A&R guy, like, hey, we would like to try writing this, or can we try doing this instead? We never really had to do that because we were well taken care of from our record label. They always, even though we were kids, they always put our best interest first. And I always felt protected by that. But yeah, the creativity side, we never felt like we needed to have because we were always on stage anyway and just having a good time. Did that answer your question?
I think that comes with maturity, right? It's
Yes.
like you were so young doing it. You're fun. You're in the moment. That's what's so glorious about being a child, is just that presence and being there, and you're not dealing with, just the angst and the creative, whatever. I need to express. And then, when you hit 17 or 18, it's like, I need to express myself. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And that we ended when I was 19. And so around like the last year or two, that was exactly right, about that age of when, okay, we are no longer 12 and 13. We are now starting to get into that age where we really would like to do something different. So what does that look like? And it was trying to write a couple songs and whatnot. And it didn't necessarily work for our brand, I guess I would say, because we were trying to take it to a different place that it didn't need to go. And it's just because I think it ran its course the way it was supposed to. And we did what we were supposed to. And then afterwards, that's when Aaron and I did the solo thing. And that's when I actually felt like I could get some things out and actively start pursuing the creativity inside of it.
When it came to an end, what was that experience like for you? Did it feel like, yes, this has run its course, I'm ready to move on? I'm sure there was a little bit was there sadness in there, or it was just, 100%. Hey, we're done?
We knew we were ending on our last tour. So we had like a farewell tour, and it was a bittersweet thing because we knew that last year of like, hey, this is kind of it for us. Like, let's go out on a bang. Let's know that this is going to be the end and that we're not going to come back to it. So let's make sure we take every opportunity to fully appreciate the moment, fully be invested in it. Let's pull out all of our favorite songs, even the ones that we never got to perform on our farewell tour, ones that let's let them have a chance to input what they want to hear. It was very much we knew this was happening. We were very happy that it's happening, but we're also like appreciative. It kind of gave us a better perspective of what we got to achieve in those 10 years as Jump 5, because we were able to look back for a whole year and be like, this is what we did. This is amazing. We're getting a good closure by doing this.
That's wonderful.
So talk about then that closure and then entering the next chapter with the solo album.
Okay. Yep. So as soon as we finished, my brother and I actually did a little duo thing before I did the solo thing. And it was a 180 from Jump 5. It was, hey, we can play instruments. We want to kind of not just write our own thing, but self-produce it and see what we can come up with that. And so we did about a year and a half of writing an album and producing it and putting it together, just the two of us. And I mean, Brandon did 90% of it. Like it was his baby. But we did that for a little bit of time, loved that creativity side of it. That's where I kind of fell in love with, there's more to it's more to performing and more to artistry than just being on stage and singing a song that somebody wrote for me. I actually can now produce and give literally what I'm feeling inside to the world versus what somebody is like telling me to mirror. And that was a totally different aspect of writing and whatnot. And then when you came along and said, hey, let's do something together. I wasn't even in the mindset of doing a solo thing. I was still just kind of doing the duo thing with Brandon, and I was still kind of just taking it easy after Jump 5 because it was a decade of nonstop. So I was in the mindset of, okay, let's take a break. And then Aaron came along and was like, hey, let's not take a break. Let's do this instead. And
that makes it sound like I was like, hey, let's not do guest and which was what the duo was called. That makes it sound like I was like, hey, let's not do guest and let's you come. What happened was, no, I know. What happened was that's right when I was given the imprint from EMI to run.
Sorry, I did not mention that.
And so I was given an imprint that was, it was me. It was, hey, what does your thumbprint on a record label look like? Well, it looks like mirroring faith-based music with pop music and positive pop. And who's my first call going to be? And we signed 4 or 5 people, but Brittany was one of the first calls. It was not like, hey, let's rip you away from Brandon. It was, I think there were other people involved in who got to be signed and not or whatever. And Brandon was starting to do other things.
Yeah, absolutely. The duo, it ran its course. It was kind of a nice go in between from group to solo thing. I don't think I was ready for a solo thing when we finished, because I was still, I was in the group mindset for a decade. So I've never thought I'm going to do this on my own. I can do it. Never had that inkling to ever want to do it. So when the imprint came along and when you called me, I remember at first thinking, can I do this? I don't even think I can do this. I don't know what it's like to do this on my own. I don't think I can do this. And so I had to think long and hard about it, because I truly, in my heart, did not think I was capable of doing it by myself. But with the right people, it was great. It was such a great experience getting to work all day, every day in the studio, just you and me and whoever was with us at the time.
But that's the thing that we all have as creatives have, right? Can I do this? Mm-hmm. Like, here's an idea that everybody around me says I should do. Can I do this?
I still do that.
Well, yes, that was going to be my next point. How many times are people around you, you and Kerrie and me going, no, you can do this. Like, absolutely. It happened with the podcast. Yeah. Kerrie's been trying to get me to do this for 2 years. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I don't know. Can I do this?
I feel like my personality is like, I can do this. I'm going to do this.
Yes.
Is anyone going to care that I'm doing this? That's more my experience. But totally. I hear you.
No, Kerrie's very much, no, I'm doing this. Like, whether or not you care, I'm doing it.
I love that. I need more of that in me. I have imposter syndrome so hardcore. Like, even when I'm choreographing, I still get in my head of like, this isn't going to be good enough. I'm not going to be good. I'm not good enough to do this. No one's going to like what I'm doing. And then it goes into a downward spiral. But once I talk myself out of it, I'm fine. That's what my husband's for. He's really good at talking me off ledges. But
so, and me.
Well, of course, you too.
Right.
You give me a nice push.
So solo album, we write and produce a solo album together. Your first kind of, this is all Brittany all the time, music. Mm-hmm. Talk about it.
It was I mean, it was pure pop, but it was fun pop. Like we had a blast writing it. I still remember being in the studio, just like hearing some of the tracks for the first time, because you were also finding your own as a producer at the same
Absolutely.
time.
I wanted to just be a writer, not a producer.
Right.
Yep.
Right. So you and I were kind of both in that same boat of like, this is kind of the first for both of us. How are we going to do this? Are we doing okay? And I feel like I'm not to pat ourselves in the back here, but I feel like we nailed it. Like I listened to that album still 10 years later and go, wow, that was pretty good. We did pretty good.
Do you think, Brittany, now that you say that, we had your manager at the time pushed me to be a producer, and I didn't want to do it. Do you think because of our relationship, I mean, we're closer now than we were then, but we were close then. Do you think this safety net for each other played into the fact that we were able to do it? And we were like, well, if nobody likes it, who cares?
At least
we love it.
Do. Yeah,
yes.
100%. I do. I think because both of us were in that same boat of like the unknown of like, can we do this? Well, we got each other. We can carry each other on our backs. Like we got this. I think 100%.
It was the first thing I produced completely by myself. And I kept calling people to like, hey, want to co-produce this track? Want to co-produce this? Like, because I was scared. Yeah. And I cared. Part of it is I cared so much about you and the label. I wanted it to succeed. And so we did a full CD. We did a radio tour. And you were about to go on tour.
I can feel it coming, Aaron. I can feel it coming out of your mouth right now.
Dun, dun, dun.
Well, first of all, we did a radio tour. We had a single that, and I've said this before, had there been a different label involved, I feel like would have blown up.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is.
Right. It is what it is. But, and maybe that's just me like, oh man, but it was also a little ahead of what was happening on the radio. And I don't mean like we were ahead of our time. I mean, Christian radio wasn't doing that.
Correct.
They ended up doing it.
Yes.
But general market radio was doing it. But I remember we were at a radio station that will remain nameless, and we played the song for them. And he said, I just don't know. We don't really he looked at me specifically and said, Aaron, I just don't think we play the type of music that you write.
I don't remember this.
Oh, absolutely.
Meanwhile, you have songs on his playlist,
hold on.
I'm sure.
And then he hits play and plays Good Morning.
Stop it.
You don't remember this?
No, I don't remember this. I mean, this is a long time ago in my brain.
It was.
So much has happened.
And we drove overnight to get there.
Sure, I was asleep.
But I was just like, okay,
Wow.
I'll never forget that story. Literally hit like Good Morning right after that.
And he knew that was your song.
No.
He didn't know.
Didn't know it was my song.
Okay.
Didn't know it was my song. Yeah. And but it was the whole, we don't write the kind of music we don't play the kind of music you write.
Yeah.
Cool. Because yours was so pop.
Yeah.
So we, but your fans loved it. Your fans still love it.
I mean, I loved it. I thought and I feel like when we were making it for ourselves as well.
Absolutely.
Like, it was not let's make this for the masses. Do we like this? Is this something that I would listen to 100%? Is it something that I know when I sing about this? Is it something that I'm feeling right now? 100%. And that's the way I have to look at that being successful, because it came from us. It didn't come for them.
Yep. And for me, it was successful. This whole podcast is how do we define success? For me, it was successful in that, hey, I'm able to produce, but really what I wanted, and this, I wanted the world to know that you weren't a product. Like you could sing. Like I was like, no, we're doing ballads. Like you are gonna, we text about one of those ballads today, but I was like, no, you're going to sing. And, and both of you have been behind the mic when I'm producing, and you know how I love to push you as a vocalist.
It's delightful. I love it.
It's great. Kerrie, you mentioned something in the last podcast that I listened to about how he has a stickler for
phrasing.
For phrasing. Oh my gosh. The amount of times that Aaron would stop me while I was singing to make me do it again. Every time I'd have to mutter under my breath, fine. Or he would, because I one of the producers when we were in Jump 5 when I was a kid that stuck with me forever was when it was a hard A sound, you put breath behind it. So you add an H to it. So I would do that a lot and he would have to stop me and God bless the US, hey, over here.
Brittany, I swore I was not going to bring it up. What they
assumed you would.
What they sang at the White House was God bless the USA.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Well, actually, they sang God bless the US, hey, every 4th of July on her Facebook page.
Yes.
Everyone.
I'd
post it.
To this day.
I'd post it.
I love it. I will say, he is a stickler for phrasing. And there's like an art to being a vocal producer to somehow know like how and when to stop a vocalist to where they don't feel like they're just being slapped in the face. It's like, I'm in this emotional moment. And then you literally just put your hand over my mouth while I'm trying to finish something. And some people can be, really good at it too, of just like finding the right moment to smack you in the face and say, hey, let's do that again.
Am I good at that or bad at that?
I have a bad memory in general, but I don't have a specific like bad. No, listen, let me finish. I don't have a specific bad memory of I don't like working with Aaron. Ugh. No, I love working with you. So I'm sure that you're not bad at it, or it's kind of my pet peeve. I would remember if you did that a lot.
But I think part of the niceties go out when we're as close as we are.
100%.
Oh yeah.
That
100%.
which is probably wrong, which is wrong. But
it is, but I love singing for you because I can just give it right back to you. I don't have a problem being like,
of course. Yeah.
Here, let me sing.
So we did this album, we did a radio tour, single did okay. Did a couple videos. They did better outside of traditional media. Yes. Like your fans ate it up. Mm-hmm. Then Brittany meets a boy.
And I think that's a bad thing.
Well,
right? He's my husband. Thank you very much.
She still owes
her career.
She still owes me a tour.
But it wasn't just that. It was also I started teaching.
Right. Which brings us to where we are today.
Right.
You're not just a singer, musician. You are a fantastic choreographer.
Well, thank you.
Dancer, choreographer. She started teaching dance and jumping into her creativity there. What is your creativity like? Are those the same muscles in your brain, or how does that tap into your creativity, I guess is the question.
So I was a dancer first before I was a singer. And I say that's not entirely true, but I grew up competitively dancing. So dance has always been in my blood before singing. So when I started teaching, my mom was my dance teacher. So it was in my blood. She started teaching. So I kind of fell into that role as well. I watched her become a teacher. But I've always heard music differently than I think a lot of artists do because I feel it in my bones rather than just hear it in my head.
100%.
So when I'm listening to a piece of music, I am automatically envisioning what I like, seeing things happening across the stage. I don't just hear a piece of music. I literally feel it in my body. So when I'm choreographing a piece, it's a lot easier for me to choreograph than it is to write music. I don't know what it is, but I think it's because it's just so ingrained in me to hear it differently and see it in my head than to come up with a piece of lyric or some music. It's sort of the same brain, but it's also I don't have to think about it when I think about it. Does that make sense? It naturally comes in my head. Like I will dream choreograph. I'll wake up having choreographed a dance in my head. And then I'm like, okay, cool. We'll do that tomorrow. Great. Where writing music was way harder for me. So I prefer choreographing and I prefer moving to music that way than I do writing for sure. But it's just always been in my bones.
But they work together because with the way you choreograph as a musician as well.
I do. I choreograph to little tiny beats in music or little tiny things in the track. And I teach my kids when I'm showing them or when I'm teaching choreography or when I'm trying to give them to learn to improv, I train them to listen to all the little bitty parts in the music that you wouldn't necessarily hear if you're just hearing it for the first time. So like when I hear a piece of music, before I start to choreograph, I close my eyes and I listen at least 10 times to the song to make sure I pick out all the little details that nobody on the first try would pick out. And then I choreograph to that. I will try and make it interesting. So visually it's interesting and you're not just hearing what's going to words. You're seeing, oh, this, Andia's, which I prefer watching versus just a normal piece of choreography flat.
And I'm gonna take a little aside. It's not like just competition dancers. You've trained dancers who are working, dancers who are winning auditions. You're winning choreography awards often. So it's not like, oh, we're doing recital pieces. It is working. And you do some recital pieces, I'm sure. So you're also, those things work together. Do you feel like that scratches that creative itch? Or are you, yeah?
I mean, it does. I guess if you were to define success for me these days, that creativity itch is being scratched for sure. Like winning choreography awards, it's cool to be recognized, but to me, dance is so subjective and art itself is so subjective that and I'm not doing it for you. I'm choreographing because it's what I hear and what I feel. And if it's interesting to other people, that's great. That's just icing on the cake. But for me, this is how I see this piece of music. And I hope it translates and correlates to what's happening when you're listening to it. And if it does, then, the stars align. But for me, that kind of success is not really I don't view it as cool. I'm winning choreography awards. Sorry, my dad's calling me.
Hi, Daddy.
Oh, sorry.
I was going to ask, like, hey, you keep saying this is in your bones, it's in your blood. Like, what's your history? How did you grow up as a kid? I mean, obviously you were I'm interested to know what you did for education growing up, being a full-time working child, or if there was any. I'm interested in knowing that. And then two, I'd love to hear a little bit more of growing up, watching your mom, what kind of impact that had. I'd love to hear even a little bit about what she's doing now, just kind of that arc of, passing it on.
Sure. School. Well, I was a Montessori kid from age 3 to 7th grade, which is funny because Aaron's daughter, goes to the same place that I went to. So
cool. Because of you.
Because of me.
So you grew up in Nashville.
Yes. So I was born in North Carolina, but I moved here when I was about 1. So I've been here ever since.
Wow.
And I'm 33 now. So 30 some odd years. But I was a Montessori kid. And then about the time Jump 5 started was when we had to leave Montessori. And because we were touring constantly, they gave us a tutor. So there were 5 of us and 3 different grades. And so in order to do that, the tutor just basically kind of combined us into 1 grade.
Cool.
Which was awesome. And we did like 9 to 1 every day schooling. I say schooling in air quotes because we were not technically under an umbrella school. We were kind of doing our own curriculum, which was awesome because it meant we could learn whatever we wanted to on any given day. But it was not so great because we couldn't technically graduate from a school. So I had to end up getting my GED when I was 16. So it was that was a fun day getting my GED with a bunch of ex-convicts at 16. No sweat. No, it was so I say schooling funny because I didn't really ever go to a normal, what you would consider normal school. I mean, yes, right. Montessori is a school, but it's definitely a different. I mean, I was in a class with 16 people, not 300 people. Right. So it was definitely different, but I grew up, my mom was always my teacher. She's always been my dance teacher. For Jump 5, she was our dance teacher. She was our choreography, not choreography. She was our rehearsal coach. So we would 9 to 1 every day would go to our tutor's house, and then 2 to 5 or 2 to 6, we would go to my mom's basement because she had a dance studio in her basement, and we would rehearse for 4 hours with her. And it was she was a very tough rehearsal coach. She's always been tough on me and my brother, and she will tell you that too. She was not a softie by any stretch of the imagination. She is now, and I will tell her all the time, she has gone soft in her old age.
There are a few exceptions.
There are a few, and Addison being one of them.
Yes.
She is not soft on Addison. She's not soft on the people that she cares about most, because she sees the potential, which was wonderful and also terrifying and horrific, being the daughter of someone who only sees potential in you. And I say that in the most loving way possible. I don't mean to sound like my mom's a monster. I mean it in, she was always pushing us to never settle, to always make sure that we remember, like, there's always going to be someone out there who works harder than you, that wants it more than you, that, you know, this is their dream too. So you have to make sure you work just as hard. And to me, that was the best push for me, because I'm always very self-disciplined with my with the desire to work hard and whatnot, as long as I want it. And if I don't want it, then I don't care, which fair to everyone. But I felt like that was a great motivator for me to know that, hey, if you want this, you've got to, someone out there is going to take it from you if you don't, you know.
But also, she really does believe in you. To this day, she will ask me, Aaron, how can we make her sing again?
Yeah, all the time.
To this day. This is not, you know, and she is your biggest fan.
She is.
She's also your biggest, you know, foot in the rear when you need it.
Critique. Yes, I feel like, and we've had this conversation too, like it was great as a kid, getting motivated by her, because she only wanted the best for us, and she was going to get it. No way, no how. She was going to do it her way. But at the same time, I always had that feeling of like, oh, I'm never going to be good enough. I'm never going to have that. She's never going to be proud of me, because I feel like I'm always, you know, I'm working as hard as I can here, but she's always going to want more. So that was a great motivator, but it was also kind of a curse, because I still to this day have that imposter syndrome of, oh no, this is never going to be good enough. This is never going to work out. This is going to be terrible. And then I have to remind myself, I'm not doing it for them, I'm doing it for me. And then everything's good.
Well, and we can brag on your mom for a minute. She is one of the most sought after dance teachers not in the state of Tennessee, like in the Southeast.
She is. Like, what's so funny to me is that she never wanted to teach. She was not going to be a dance teacher, never, ever. And she ended up becoming one on accident, because the studio here, they wanted to start competing. And she was like, well, I can teach your kids technique, including me. So she started teaching, and then it kind of blew up to the point where there are how many dance studios in this state, and a lot of them send their own kids to my mom. Like, it's insane. She's incredible with what she does.
I tell people all the time, like, actual studio owners are sending their actual offspring,
like their own kids,
to her for technique. And this is a good segue. We've referenced the fact that my daughter dances.
Yes.
In previous episodes, we've also referenced the fact that I did not want that to be the case.
Very true.
But it is you and your mom. So Brittany, I guess people have figured out, but Brittany and her mom are who train Addison.
Yes.
So yeah.
We own a dance studio together, and Addison started dancing with us before we had the studio. Yeah. Really, we only had
it was let me teach her in our basement. She was 2.
Yep.
And then Brittany at one point, 6-8 months, a year in, was like, hey, I wouldn't tell you this if it weren't true, but she's actually good. Yes. And I was like, I don't want that to be the case. I don't want her to be good.
No, it sucks, but it's true.
And this is the heart moment. It's so fun, because I worked with you when you were little, or not little, but when you were younger. And now, like, you've got Addison, and I see so much of you in her. Like, I really do. And your mom has even said it. Yep. And
I see a lot of her in you in her.
but I also I watch you choreograph Addison, and I see you, like, I'm like, oh, she's giving it to Addison just because I stopped her on that vocal. Like, You know what I mean? Like you're sitting in the seat that I was in with you. You're that for Addison. Yep. And she adores you, like adores you. Her. And that's fun for me because, you know, it's your parents, then me, then you, now our kids. It's so fun.
Beautiful.
So, and Kerrie multiple times talks about how good Addison is. And I'd love to say that's my DNA, but your thumbprint on her.
I mean, the kid works really hard and she's incredibly talented. She's just a hard head.
That's also from Aaron for sure.
That is you.
So I love that. I love your career arc though. There's a running theme of as we get older, our definitions of success and motivation change.
100%.
And you're married now. You've got a kid. Still owe me a tour. You're married now and have your own child. So define what phases or what definitions of success have you lived through yourself? And what is it today?
Okay. I think it'd be easy to define when I was a kid or when I was competing in dance competitions, because to me, success back then was, oh, I won first place. Congratulations. That was success for you. With Jump 5, I felt like we were so young. We didn't know how to define success then because we didn't understand what success was. We just thought, wow, we get to be on stage performing, let alone performing for like people that actually want to come watch us. That was success to us. Like we're doing this because we love it so much. And yet people are paying money to come and get my autograph. What is that? Like, I'm just a 13-year-old kid. Why do I matter? Right. So success in that phase kind of felt more, it was more of a gratitude thing, I think. I never had the like, oh, we're so cool. Look at all these people came to see us. Like, no, it was never like that. It was always every time somebody took the time to wait in line for have me to sign their autograph. Every single time I felt like this is so weird that somebody cares enough about me to want to come and see me. After that whole phase happened, again, it was still just the success looked like, it wasn't until we looked back onto Jump 5 days of like, wow, we were really successful. Like we did really crazy things that nobody else could ever say they could do. And I was only a child. So once that ended and we kind of moved on into like now full circle back into the dance world, I would say success looks so different for me. I view it differently as a teacher than I did as a dance kid. And to me, when I was winning those dance competitions, I look at from the teacher perspective now and think, gosh, I wish I could go back and just like tell myself that does not matter. Like you won a trophy, congratulations. Like I feel like I put so much effort into making sure I was the best one in the room. Like any classroom that I was in, I was going to be the best one in the room because dang it, I deserve it. Not even deserve it, but I'm going to make sure that people notice me, that I'm going to win. Mm-hmm. And as a teacher, it's to me, again, it's so subjective what you're looking at. Like I want the person or the student that's in the room who is working their tail off to achieve something that they know that they don't think they can get. But if they work hard enough and then it finally clicks for them, that's the moment that I'm like, yes, kid, that is success. I'm so excited for you because they just light up. They get so excited and it emanates in the whole room. Everybody's so excited for that person.
So good. And you and your mom both take that to your studio.
Yes.
We're not here to stack trophies.
No. And we try, like that is the main part for us as a studio, because there's so many studios in the world and there's so many dance studios that only care about the one thing. And that's, did you win at that competition? That's so great. Are you going to remember that in 2 years? Absolutely not. You go to college, and if you're going to be dancing for college, your professor could not care that you won triple, double, crystal high score at this one rinky-dink competition. Nobody cares. What they care about is, are you a hard worker? Do you care enough to be present in this room? Do you want to be here? are you going to be a good student for me? That's what they're going to care about. So we try really hard to train dancers who want to be dancers later on, that it's not about the win. It's not about the trophy. It's about how their work ethic and how they can dedicate. Our 4 words are dedication, quality. Oh gosh, I already forgot the other 2. What are our 4 words? They're on our shirt. I don't remember.
Teamwork?
No, not teamwork.
Something work. I don't know. Whatever.
It'll come to you.
It'll come to you.
But you instill in your students what you learned.
Yes.
That stacking another trophy doesn't get you a job. Stacking the other trophy is other people's, them putting success on you, but it doesn't always fulfill what you need to fill, right?
Correct.
And that's what we have as creatives, what we have to do is we have to say, we're all creative, we're all artists. It is subjective. And sure, those things are nice and it's great to be appreciated, but that can't be what fulfills or sustains you.
Mm-hmm.
It just can't. So
it absolutely cannot.
I love how you, like, everyone will be able to hear in your voice, and me being able to look at your face of just feeling the passion of that moment when I'm like, oh, she's preaching now.
I am sorry. I got myself.
No, don't at all. I loved it, and I loved what you had to say, and I think that that's so true, and it's just a good reminder, even for me, of just, man, take my eyes off the trophy or the numbers or those
funny.
Outcome goals. Get rid of those outcome goals and let's really grow.
Yep.
Let's just grow and learn and get better.
And we've talked about it before. It's the process. The progress is the process. It's not the end goal, right? And I was having this conversation just yesterday or a couple of days ago. Nobody has ever asked me where I went to law school. Not one person. I mean, some people do, but when they're trying to hire me, no client has cared about where I went to law school or what my GPA was. And, I'm full on dance dad. And you do conventions and competitions, but it's more for the stage time for them. And these parents who get so wrapped up in the world's version of success, I work in entertainment. I've been a part of hiring dancers for videos for my clients. How many times have I ever said, how many wins did you get? How many national titles? None. Can you pull it off? Kerrie, you know this about me. I don't care what all your bio says.
Right.
Can you get behind the mic and sing it?
Yeah.
That's what I care about. Can I put my name, and that's where we've got to be with as creatives and success. Success has got to be, can I pull off what I need to pull off? So,
and finding joy along the way.
Yes. Well, that is joyful. That should be your joy. If it's
the learning, the process of it.
If it's never good enough, then you're never going to have joy. Mm-hmm. If you're always outcome focused, you're never going to have joy because there's always another outcome. You can win a Grammy, but did you win 6?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Did you also win an Oscar? Right. You know what I mean? Like I can always add another accolade to somebody's resume that they didn't do. Right?
I'm picturing, I know this is like your inner monologue, but how great it would be if that was like a real conversation. You're like, oh, congrats on that nomination. Did you get 10?
Right. Exactly. Well, I tell people all the time, because, all the time, my intro and my bio, wherever I do anything, Grammy nominated. And I'm always like, that just means I didn't win.
Right.
Like I make the joke of that just means I didn't win, but it really does mean that.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise it would be Grammy winning.
Right.
So
there's still time.
There is always time.
If I can get Brittany out of retirement.
Brittany, we'll talk. I think it would be just a good time as we're talking about joy and creative, of just talking about things that did bring us joy lately in this past week. What have you found inspiration in? Something that has filled you up? Do you have any?
Well, today, in fact, so I have an 8-month-old. Her name is Pepper, and she is the absolute light of my life. But for the last probably 6 weeks, she has been trying to crawl and trying to stand, and just, she's not one of those babies who are, just super chill babies. Like, she's going to let you know when she's not super happy. And the
I call that
frustration.
expressive in my house.
Yes, spirited. That's what we call it, spirited. She whenever she feels like she can't get to where she wants to go, she would just whine, and she would do that like things that I still do to this day. But it's just as her baby cry, and then I'd have to go over there and show her how to physically crawl, make her crawl. And after 6 weeks of that, which I had that feeling of like, she's just never gonna crawl. She's just not gonna do it, and that's fine. That's totally fine. She's gonna walk before she crawls. Have at it. That's great. And today I was sitting across the room from her, and she decided, hey, Mom, I'm coming to you. And she came over, and she did more of like a 3-legged crawl, like 2 arms, 1 leg kind of crawl, but it was a crawl. And I just burst into tears, and I am not a crier. I'm not I'm not an emotional person. Obviously, after having her, I am now. Everything changes when you have a kid. But I literally just sat there bursting into tears because I was so welled up with pride for this child of like, you did it. I'm so happy for you. And of course, it means my job is 10 times harder because now I have to chase the kid.
I love it.
But it's okay because it was truly like, it was such a joyful moment today. So,
Did you see my face when you said you cried?
yes, I did. I'm not a crier.
I love that.
I cry.
I love that she too. It's like her motivation was to come to you.
Right? Like,
So
and just thinking about it, it's making me tear up over here. But like, it was you're too far away from me, Mom. I got to come find any way to get to you. And she struggled, but she did it. And then she's been crawling all day now. And it was the best.
Wait till she's 11 and she's like, you don't have to come in, just drop me off.
Yeah. Thanks, Addison.
I love that. That's so good. I can't wait to see her crawl. Oh. Kerrie, do you have a moment?
I do. So I just finished this book, John Muir, My Life with Nature. It's written for kids. I read a lot of kids' books because they're easy, they're quick, and you still get all just amazing information. I read a lot of like old kids' books, which is a whole other thing. But anyway, John Muir, he's a conservationalist, very, very important in our country, why we have just preserved so much of our land. Like, he was the first really outspoken conservationist that really made a difference. I'm sure there's more eloquent ways to put that. But this book they wrote for kids, but they used a lot of his words. And I love how well this is fitting in with everything you said tonight. So this is just a quote of what he says about nature. And he says, I try to tell not what I have done, but what nature has done, a much more important story, in the hopes that you'll go to nature yourself and learn her secret ways. I've also wanted to make the mountains glad, for nature was made not just for us, but for itself and its own happiness, and is the very smile of God. I mean, that's basically what you were saying, how you're doing it for yourself because that's what you have been created to do. That gives you joy, just being what you've created to do. And I just love that quote. This is such a good book. There's so many just wonderful quotes, but that really spoke to my heart of, nature was made for us to enjoy, but it was just made for itself to do what it does because that gives God glory, because he created us all to be exactly what we are, if we can find that thing that he gave us into our hands and our hearts. So
that's stunning. That's absolutely stunning. Love that.
So, I'll send you this book.
Please do.
You'll love it.
Mine is a little bit of a left turn. And
Shock.
I feel like I get really inspired when people are like, oh, you thought this about me, but this. And I feel like I've done this a couple of times. But I'm thinking about, I have a very good friend, and I might even get in trouble for saying this, but whatever, a very good friend who I knew as a guitar player, touring guitar player, session guitar player. And I'd always heard, yeah, but he also plays other things. And he is always, I feel like the guitar was more fun for him, or the guitar was, you know, the cool thing or whatever, but he is a world-renowned saxophonist. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Saxophonist?
That's sure. What I would say.
But I mean, he's played with crazy people as a sax player.
How else would you say it? Saxophonius?
Saxophone.
Saxophone player?
Saxophone.
But anyway, but he, you know, he would do session work with sax, with the sax or whatever. But I mean, he's played with like Gladys Knight. You know what I mean? Like, nice. But he got an opportunity to go out on the road with a major act, not on guitar, but on sax. And I watched him go, no, I'm going to do this. And then practice for hours and hours a day, picking up the first instrument, right? Sax was, you know, his first instrument, going back to kind of the first love. Mm-hmm. And now I'm watching, he's I'll say he's out with Zach Williams. And the first tour was a Christmas tour. And then it was like, oh, there should be a sax solo here. And then he did it. And now there's like, oh, it's the spring tour. Zach's like, we need another sax solo or whatever. I get so inspired by my friends that are like, hey, you thought of me as the worship guitar player, but there's way more there. Right. There's way more there. I mean, Brittany, I was inspired 10, 15 years ago when it was like, oh, yeah, you can sing a little bit and dance, and then you sing, and I'm like, oh crap, there's way more there. You know, and you know, it's all like, Kerrie, you and I are still writing songs together we talked about it earlier today, without guardrails, because there's way more there. So I get really inspired when people dive in and there's just layers. So yeah, he is crazy inspiring to me, and he probably doesn't even know it, and he probably won't until he hears this, and we will know whether or not he's listening.
Right. It's a test.
Brittany, it has been such a joy, literal joy. Like, my face is tired from smiling this whole time. I really appreciate you giving us the time. It's been so great just getting to know you better and meeting you. And
thanks for
having Aaron once again for having awesome people in your life.
That's my skill right there. Get to know cool people.
One of your many talents.
I behaved.
You did. Thanks for being nice to me. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
You're going to text me something really mean later.
So here's, I'm going to tell this story. So Brittany, as a choreographer, the parents love her. The kids love her, whatever. Whatever. She comes out of the studio one day from choreographing. And so Brittany and her husband spent, was it 2 years in Australia?
Almost 3. Yeah.
Almost 3. So when you came, and she would fly back and choreograph or whatever, but when you actually came back, everybody was like, it was like Elvis returned to the building. And she was walking out of the studio, and there are people who know our history. We actually we try our best not to show how close we are. And we keep it very professional there. But there are parents that were just, oh, Brittany's back, fawning over Brittany or whatever. She walked out, and I think I said something like, that's what you chose, or something like that. It was like really, and I just walked out the door. And there were parents there.
I knew he was kidding, but all the parents just looked at me like, what? And I was like, relax, it's fine.
That's my favorite thing to do. I do it to everybody.
You're so good at it. Thanks.
So that wraps up another episode of Yep and That Too. We are still doing this, and people are still listening.
Praise the Lord.
I'm listening.
There'll be a lot of listeners because Brittany Hargest from Jump 5 is on.
Woohoo!
So, hey, seriously, thanks, Brett.
Absolutely. I had so much fun. I'm glad my kids stayed asleep and didn't scream in the middle of it. So, yay.
Yeah. And I know everyone will be just inspired and uplifted and encouraged to find creative joy in doing what they're created to be. So thanks, guys.
Thanks for
see
listening.
You soon.
Thank you for listening to Yep and That Too, a podcast for creatives. Yep and That Too is hosted by Kerrie Roberts and Aaron Rice, co-produced by Sarah Rice and Maven Media Productions. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Yep and That Too Podcast with new episodes every other Wednesday. Like, comment, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. The information on this podcast is for general information purposes only. Nothing in this podcast should be taken as legal advice for any individual case or situation. This information is not intended to create, and receipt of or listening to does not constitute an attorney-client relationship.